With the examples in mind, we're now ready to update our interpreter for variables. So first, let's look at the identifier case. Here's the old code that we had. We would look up a value inside the environment and then return that value along with the new store. Recall that we've changed the type of environments for variables. So a binding now maps symbols to locations instead of symbols to values. So this call to lookup is no longer well typed. It's giving us a location. What we need is a value, so we have to modify this by adding a fetch. Next, here's the old case for let. We used to extend the environment with a value, and that happened in the bind right here. So first we would interpret the right-hand side, we would get a value out of that, and then we would update the environment with a binding that points to that value. Now we can no longer do this. The environment holds locations instead of values. So we need a location L. That location L belongs inside of a cell inside of the store, and the value in the cell should be the value right-hand side. So now we're almost done. We just need to say where L comes from, and we do that by creating a new location up at the top. Now for a set expression, which corresponds to our assignment. So we want to assign the value of val to the name var. We've got these two pieces to work with. Var is just a symbol. So in our template, we just leave var the way it is. And then val is an expression. So we should call the interpreter on that using the current environment and the current store. The name var should point to a location. So we should be able to look that up in the current environment. And then when we interpret val, we should get back a value and an updated store. So let's capture those using reslet. Next, we want to update our store so that the location L points to the value VV. We can do that by overriding the latest store that we have, store V, and we'll put a cell in front that maps L to VV just like we want. From here, we're almost done. We just need to wrap up our store inside of a result, and we need to choose some value to return. So VV is a value on hand, so we can just return that, and then we're all done with the set case. There's one more case that we need to modify inside of our interpreter, but every other case can stay the same as it was for boxes to implement Mo with variables. The one case that's left to modify is for application. So before, we were getting the value of the function, get the value of the argument, and then extend the environment with a new binding, mapping that name from the function parameter to the value of the function's argument. This no longer works because we have a value here and our environment maps names to locations. So just like with the let case, we need to create a new location and build a mapping for that. The change here is very similar to the change that we made to the let case. We create a new location L, and then we make a binding inside the environment, mapping the name to the location. And finally, we add a mapping to the store. So we point that location L to the value VA.